Right, okay, so for this second part of the lesson, I'm going to talk you through creating an extension of what we did in the last lesson, but looking at adding an additional 3 frames. That brings up to 4 frames in total, and each one of these frames is showing us a different still image from a film. You can see my frame 3 actually has a video. You don't have to add a video, but you can if you want to. But a minimum of an extra 2 still images of films, and then finally a 4th frame is just a blank screen. Okay, so if we just investigate what the layers look like, the background layer doesn't change. So you can see there's only 1 keyframe right at the beginning there, so nothing changes there. The pix layer is the only layer that has the additional keyframes in, because that's the only layer that's the layer that's got the pictures in. Screen doesn't change, TV doesn't change, button doesn't change, and then I've got 4 individual keyframes with different pieces of ActionScript. I'll quickly show you the ActionScript now. So I'll select frame 4 and press F9 as a quick shortcut to bring up the Actions window. The Actions window, you can see that the only actions in this particular example is a stop ActionScript. So there isn't really anything else happening in frame 4. Frame 3 is exactly the same, it's just a stop. Frame 2 is the same, it's just a stop. Strictly speaking, you don't even need the stop. If we were using go to and stops in our actions, we don't need them, but they're there just in case. Okay, I'll come back to frame 1 in a minute. I'm just going to make this a bit smaller for next time. Okay, so, and then I'll move that off the screen for now. So we've got over here then, let's just have a look. The first thing we need to do is add in frame 2 all the additional frames we need. So in the background layer, you might just want to do this all the way up to frame 4, but frame 2, press F5 in the background layer, will add a new frame. Frame 2 on the screen layer, press F5. Frame 2 in the TV layer, press F5. Frame 2 in the buttons layer, press F5. In the actions layer, press F6. And then press F9 to bring up the actions window. And here you can see, just type in stop with the brackets and the semicolon to go in the actions frame for frame 2. Now we need to set up the buttons. So the buttons here, you might just want to use an invisible button, but what I've done is I've actually cut those buttons out of there, turn them into a symbol, and then use them as a button that way. If I double click on that button, you can see in the down frame here, I've just rotated it. So that's it. That's all that button does, an up and an over rotation. Okay, so we need to put the ActionScript on the button. Now, in the last lesson, we put an ActionScript on and we used an event handler. So this is what the ActionScript in frame 1 looks like. But if you just ignore this bit for now. In fact, I'm going to cut that out of there. Cut all this out of here. Remember, that's kind of what it looked like. So we had a stop ActionScript at the top. Then we added the event at the add event listener using these little code snippets here. So there's the event handler and then the mouse click. So that's just one of those again. And yesterday we put in I think we did go to and stop, go to and play, and then play and stop actions. So this one is a little bit different because we've got an if statement here. And this if statement tells us how to move from to switch on and off. So basically that frame number there, frame 4 and frame 4, is the off screen. If we have a look at my screen here, pix 4 is the off screen. So if your off screen is going to be on frame 2, you set it to frame 2. Otherwise, set it to frame 4 like I have. Okay, so that's how that works for the power button. The channel button's a bit different because I need to move from channel to channel. So this channel ActionScript, I'll explain what it's doing. We're setting what's called a variable. We've given it a name and we're setting its initial value to 0. That bit doesn't matter too much. But if you want to look up variables on the internet and find out what they are, then you can. So I'm actually setting that value to be equal to whatever the current frame is. So if I'm on frame number 1, it'll set CF to be frame number 1. This if statement checks to checks to see that I'm not on. That means not equal to. So does the current frame I'm on equal 3 or not? As long as it doesn't, then I'm going to add 1 onto it and go to and stop on the frame CF. This allows me to go from from frame 1 to frame 2 to frame 3. If I'm on frame 3, it means that the next frame is the off screen, and therefore I don't want to go to the off screen. I only want the power button to change to the off screen. Okay, so that value there is whatever value is the one before your off screen. So because my off screen is 4, that value there is 3. Okay, so that should be all that you need to know to go about creating this. So start with frame 2, put in a picture of another film. So you'll need to just remove Pulp Fiction from frame 2 so that it only appears in frame 1, and add another picture. So you can see I've got a Jaws still there. Frame number 3, make sure there's nothing in the background of the pix layer for frame 3 and add your own film in there. And then finally, frame number 4, make sure you've deleted everything else in the pix layer and add the blank screen in, and then test it. See how it goes. Hopefully, fingers crossed, you get it right without any problems.